So could we just begin by getting just your overall reaction to the budget that was presented yesterday?
Having paid attention to cyclical factors, so massive help for those in the affected sector, attention turned very quickly to structural transformation. So in other words, you want to give immediate help, but there is a place for attention on what will happen over the next several years, because when this storm is past, ultimately that is what is going to matter a lot for good jobs and good pay.
If we just look at FY 2020, almost 100 billion of war chest monies is actually used, to support the economy. But in FY 2021, we have the 11 billion COVID package, to support the economy. So there is a very huge difference between 100 billion versus 11 billion. What that means is that from a growth perspective, it could mean that the government is somewhat comfortable in tapering and allowing some policies and measures to lapse in order to support, growth and for the year ahead.
It is a very pro-worker budget that quite nicely balance support and transformation. How does it come through? I think the support one, we are quite relieved that to see JSS continue to extend to the hard-hit sectors, aerospace, aviation, hospitality, even extending to some parts of retail. I think that's going to give companies and workers some relief, at least all the way up to September. I think important as we come out from the lowest of the crises, you want to shore up hiring, meaning you want companies to hire ahead of time, ahead of demand, have some confidence in their cash flow. JGI is going to help quite a fair bit.
The JGI being the jobs growth incentive, which basically subsidizes hiring.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I think key on companies' minds is how much in advance of increase in demand do I want to hire? I think that's going to help. I think the results from the first tranche, 110,000, I think that's very promising. We're certainly looking forward to the second one.
It is actually remarkably balanced. It is able to target on the short-term challenges that enterprises are facing. So it's very focused on all those groups some of those groups that are heavily impacted, like aerospace, aviation, tourism. And at the same time, it scaled back on the certain sectors that are already on the rebound. But yet at the same time, there are also initiatives helping those on the rebound to do even better. And then at the same time, it has got a whole area on the social compact and also on sustainability for the environment as well. So within a pandemic, to be able to craft out a budget of such coverage, it is remarkable.
Will this level of JSS support be enough for these companies?
On the matter of how long it will take, I think there's a bit gazing into the crystal ball. I think for now, it should keep cash flow flowing a bit better. We also have training grants to the SG United, skills and training. They will provide training support. Nothing beats a recession or downtime to retool, reskill workers, so that when the rebound comes, our workers are in a better state to get those better jobs in that sector. I think if needed, I think the labour movement will continue to make those calls, work with the workers, and if it's still continuing to not see rebound, then I think we can make another push for that kind of support.
What is peculiar about this particular shock is both that in all likelihood it's going to go beyond a year. We're talking about most likely at least one more year, and potentially even longer. So there's uncertainty about how long this slump will go, together with other uncertainties that also cloud the typical way we would have helped the economy. Government with finite fiscal resources would have to trade off between more help, not just for the affected sector, because even the other sectors that on the whole have begun to do well, manufacturing that Barnabas talked about, there are some firms that will still retrench, you know what I mean? And so you got to balance the use of your resources between that and then get a very good trend growth when the economy rebounds. So it's a big judgment call.
The JSS is inherently expensive. If you look at the special transfers.
25 billion totally, right?
Yeah, and it's actually 50%, or just above 50% of the total special transfers. We would have to understand that we are here for the long haul. We have to, for lack of a better word, budget the amount of resources that we have so that Singapore is well positioned to carry through. That's the first point. But I think the second point really is that the tenets of economics have actually taught us that over-reliance on government support for the long run will actually cause or inject some sort of, to make companies less competitive. Hence, there is a need to slowly taper the job support scheme to allow the economy in general to be on the landing board so that we can bounce off once COVID-19 ends.
So Desmond, you talked about the ST United Job Skills Package, which has been a great success. But despite the success, there was in December still reported to be 130,000 vacancies.
I think there are two reasons for this. I think one is asymmetric information, meaning that information just doesn't flow perfectly. There could be a job that better suits you, pays you better, because you're so much more comfortable in your current job, you don't switch. I think the other one that you're going to have is a skills gap, because a lot of the jobs that we're creating now are in spaces whereby it's a bit more tech-driven, a bit more digital, and our workers might not necessarily have those skills. So you're going to have mismatches and missed matches. But I think the good thing for us is when we keep vacancies high, I think that allows workers to have the incentive to train and get a job much quicker. I think that is in contrast to many other economies whereby you have more workers than jobs. So on one hand, we are quite happy that the vacancy is going to create more opportunities for our workers, but on the other hand, we know we just have to work a lot harder to get our workers trained up and to be able to get our workers to know that the opportunities are more than what you see now.
Self-employed are a larger and larger proportion of the workforce. So can you enlighten us? What can be done for retirement and for job security for self-employed workers?
From the social security point of view, the self-employed persons are really quite poorly provided for, because they take all the discretionary income, they don't have CPF contribution, or quite minimal depending on which sector you're in. You have some MediSave. When it comes to a crisis, you're actually quite underprovided for. Firstly, we need to look into the retirement adequacy, so that, for example, do we need to look into a scheme, for example, like what we've done for our taxi drivers? They contribute to their MediSave, right, for their licenses, so that we know that they're provided for. But the issue, of course, is that then your take-home income will be less.
Right.
So it's something that we need to really study longer term, because a lot of the workers who go into this trade really do need those cash on hand. The other thing that we need to look at is the platform workers, meaning that workers who work for large platforms. Because they're self-employed, they're not unionized, there's no collective strength given. So your bargaining powers is very lopsided. I can change terms, I can change incentive structure as and when I want, and the left and the lurch. We think that if we can provide a more level playing field, the self-employed people are not only going to be better provided, I think it will allow it to thrive as an essential part of the workforce. So we'll be quite interested to look into how can we set up associations for them, right? Whether legislatively we need to make some changes so that they can be better protected vis-a-vis platforms. I think that is going to be one big piece of work that the country need to focus on.
Will the GST, first of all, be enough to take care of all our social spending needs? And other than GST, what other revenue options do we have?
I think GST is, again, another elegant solution to get recurrent revenue. I think the easy question is, why don't just raise taxes? Like business taxes, corporate taxes, income taxes. Why GST? Simply because raising taxes is not competitive for the economy. Other revenue sources, I would dare say, really is that our revenue income, at least from the country, from the economy perspective, is very much dependent on how we grow. The CIT, the corporate income tax, the PIT, which is the personal income tax, is very much highly correlated to how growth is actually, more so from a GDP perspective. The best bet for us to actually stay, to have our recurrent income keeping up with the recurrent spending will really be allowing Singapore to grow.
What are the big uncertainties that Singapore will face this year?
The pandemic. It's the biggest uncertainty because nobody knows what's down the road. And the last one that you can learn your lesson from is 1918. I don't think many people could tell you what went on during that time.
And this is one unusual type of pandemic that's global, so hits us really heavy as an economy dependent on international integration, and new things can crop up. So to my mind, that would be like one of the biggest uncertainties.
I will bring in a new game changer, which
Okay.
is geopolitical tensions.
Ah.
We actually seen how the world actually saw impeded growth
Yes.
during the US-China trade tensions. Now we are looking at something's happening in the Taiwan Strait.
Yes.
Back in 2020, we have seen armed clashes against China and India. Singapore is a small player, and we are at the whims and fancies of big global players out there.